He had never counted them before. The stairwell was just part of the building's skeleton, gray and narrow, a concrete spine connecting 4 dimly lit floors. He used it daily, several times, usually with groceries in one hand and keys in the other, never thinking to measure the rhythm of his ascent. But that night, returning home later than usual, with the halls unusually silent and the elevator stuck again for the 3rd time that week, he decided to take the stairs, annoyed but calm, footsteps echoing dully through the shaft. He climbed without haste, turning at the first landing, and somewhere between the 2nd and 3rd floors, he noticed a strange pause in the motion of his own legs, a hesitation, as though his body had just completed a 13th step. He stopped at the next landing, puzzled, looked down briefly, then continued upward. The thought didn't fully settle until he reached his apartment and shut the door behind him. Then it came, clear and sharp, there were only supposed to be 12. He'd walked that stairwell for months, always the same number. It was not something you questioned, because it was a fact built into your muscle memory, one landing to another, 12 steps, one per footfall, simple, unchanging. The next morning, just to be sure, he walked down slowly, counting aloud under his breath. 12. Just 12. 12 textured slabs of concrete, chipped at the edges, each step shallow and flat, precisely spaced. He checked again in the evening. Still 12. A day passed. Then 2. On the 3rd night, alone again, elevator silent, hallway dim, he took the stairs deliberately, 1 foot per step, counting with care. And there it was. "13. Not fast, not distracted, not in his head, he felt it in his knees, in the arc of his legs, the distribution of weight. The 13th step wasn't higher or lower. It wasn't crammed in. It didn't force a stutter in rhythm. It simply was. Present. Real. A perfect continuation that shouldn't exist. He walked back down immediately. 12. He stopped using the elevator altogether. He needed to be certain, needed to prove it wasn't just fatigue or miscounting or some architectural trick. He made charts. Filmed himself. Played back the recordings. Nothing unusual on camera. 12 steps up. 12 steps down. But in his body, alone, without any lens between him and the space, the 13th step always appeared. He began to feel it before even reaching the stairs, a kind of anticipation at the soles of his feet, like the world beneath him already preparing to distort. Sometimes it was the 4th step that felt too long. Other times the 8th felt like it repeated. But always, he arrived at the landing 1 step later than logic permitted. And yet no visual cue betrayed the anomaly. The concrete never changed. No cracks opened or closed. Nothing shifted. He asked his neighbor in passing one day, casually, with a smirk, "Hey, how many steps between the second and third floors?" The man looked at him, squinting, then shrugged. 12, isn't it? No pause. No uncertainty. He asked someone else. Same answer. And still, every night he walked alone, he reached that impossible 13. He began to wonder what would happen if he stepped past it, if he reached for a 14th. Would there be floor beneath him, or would he keep rising, body moving upward while the building remained still? Some nights he swore he could feel a strange resistance on that 13th step, not a barrier, but a hesitation in the air itself, like time had wrinkled around his ankle. One evening, he stood at the top landing for a long time, eyes closed, trying to remember what his legs felt like before they began counting for him. And below, in the silence of the stairwell, he thought he heard someone else ascending, slowly, deliberately, counting under their breath, a whisper that stopped after 12. Eventually, the 13th step became more than anomaly, it became ritual, an inevitable part of his nightly journey, not just tolerated but awaited, like the slow click of a door that always opens slightly wider than it should. He stopped pretending it wasn't there. Stopped counting out loud. Instead, he simply walked, eyes lowered, feet steady, heart tight with that strange, quiet pressure, the sense that, for those few seconds each night, he wasn't inside a stairwell, but inside something else, something that accepted him not because it recognized him, but because it had grown used to his pattern, as if his weight, his pace, his presence had carved a small indent in its structure, and now it left that extra step just for him. What disturbed him most was how normal it began to feel, the presence of the 13th step, its consistency, its silence. He no longer doubted it. He expected it, anticipated it. And then, after weeks of this quiet acceptance, something shifted again, subtly, almost imperceptibly at first. The step didn't disappear. It just moved. One night, the extra step arrived earlier than usual, after the 11th. He felt the landing underfoot before he was ready, stumbled slightly, looked down. The count was wrong. He turned and went back down. Counted again. Now the 13th came after the 9th. He descended. 12 steps. Back up. 13, but different. And with each repetition, the position of the step changed, as if the stairwell was rearranging itself in real time, not to trick him, but to adjust to him, to reshape the internal logic of its geometry to fit something he had not asked for and could not control.